Hello humans, welcome to my channel. My name is Slady, and today we're going to be talking about the ever-controversial 13 Reasons Why. What I didn't know before writing this script was that Rotten Tomatoes also covers TV shows. I mean, it makes sense. The site isn't exclusive to movies, but I've literally never bothered looking up how audiences felt about various shows because public opinion on them tends to be less varied than for movies. Critics aren't falling over themselves to commit to however many seasons there are of a smutty TV series, so it seems likely that there'd be less of a wide scope of opinions for shows from anyone other than their devoted fanbase, who tend to typically not care how bad it is. TV shows are more widely accepted as a guilty pleasure. So, armed with this newfound knowledge, I'm going to be structuring TV show reviews in the same format as I've adapted for movies. Do I agree with audiences or critics on Rotten Tomatoes, and why? The first part of this video commentary will introduce 13 Reasons Why, and what I think is an interesting and terribly flawed part of Rotten Tomatoes in regards to rating TV shows. This video is non-spoilers, but the next one will be entirely spoilers, where I discuss plots and characters. If you've somehow been under a rock for the last couple years, here's a spoiler-free summary of 13 Reasons Why. It first aired as a Netflix series in 2017, and it ended its third season on August 23rd, 2019. The show stars Dylan Minnette as Clay. There is a large cast of relevant characters that grow more and less so as the seasons progress, so I'm not going to list all of them off and the actors. But if you're interested, go ahead and look them up. Each sequential season deals with the falling out of the events of the last season. Season 1 follows Clay Jensen, a teenage boy gone vigilante for truth after his classmate and crush Hannah Baker commits suicide. What everyone except Hannah's close group of friends doesn't know is that Hannah left behind suicide letters, more like a narrative rather than a letter, in the form of audio tapes which detail her relationship with each of set friends and the events which inspired her to end it all. The friend group has to keep the tapes hidden as per Hannah's request, and Clay spends each episode listening to a new tape focusing on the secrets of the students around him. Season 2 deals with legal repercussions once Hannah's tapes are publicly released, and her parents fight for justice against those named as causes for Hannah's suicide. Each episode focuses on a character from the last season as they go to trial and fill in their own perspectives and gaps in Hannah's story. Season 3 is narrated by a new girl named Ani, and her and Clay spend their screen time trying to piece together clues of a murder which in all causality happened because of the events Hannah set in motion in the first season. The reception of 13 Reasons Why from season to season is very different and interesting. Season 1 got 38% by critics and 57% by audiences, the most well-received of the seasons. I thought it would have done a little bit better, but oh well. And season 2 got 25% by critics and 51% by audiences, which is not terrible. But season 3 got 12% by critics and 41% by audiences, which is actually terrible. Now, as I expected once I found shows on Rotten Tomatoes, it's no surprise that the critic reviews for 13 Reasons Why diminished over time. So did the audience reviews, but there were still over 1,000 opinions added into the opinion pool, even on the last season. From season 2 to season 3, the number of critics dropped to less than half of what they had been previously. There were 51 critics for Season 2, and there were only 17 critics for Season 3. As you can imagine, the people toughing their way through the show to get to the end, for the sake of commentary, weren't very pleased. They wouldn't be regardless, but 13 Reasons Why had a fairly infamous buzz, so it's no wonder people who didn't like to watch it pushed through for the sake of relevance. And I think it's interesting to note that, because it exemplifies a huge flaw in the rating system for shows. Remember when I said the only people toughing through TV shows were fans? I clicked around on the other rated TV shows, and critics gave Supernatural 100%. There were only 5 critics that contributed to that. And on the audience side, Supernatural got 82%, with only 83 audience members contributing to that. I watched Supernatural for at least up to 10 seasons, and I enjoyed it, and I squeed like any other fangirl, but it is far from perfect. It dragged on too long for plot lines and relationships to stay potent like when it started. There's a huge amount of fan service and resurrected characters, cliches, and tropes, you name it, which is generally frowned upon considering content in a critical nature. I'm not going to start listing off shows because then we'd have to go over the influence of ratings based on the types of shows, their genres, audiences, and film history. But if we stick to just between these two, it's an interesting story to be told. As I see it, TV shows are either guilty pleasures or they're not. Supernatural is a feel-good, lore-inspired family narrative in its 15th season. 13 Reasons Why was a controversial Netflix series covering dark topics that got stretched for profit. The first season was based on a book, so the ensuing seasons are fabricated by the company wanting media presence. With that context, is it any wonder why one is rated so badly and the other is rated so good? This climate leaves no room for varying opinions. Movies are short, less than 2 hours. They are easy to digest quickly, so not only is there more ability for people to jump into them, it's less enough of a commitment to watch something you might not prefer. Sometimes you get bored of action, so you watch a bit of horror. No problem. But for shows, there's a lot of investment. If there's a shitty episode or even a shitty season, viewers have to tough through that if they want to get more content. And this dynamic makes it much more exaggerated when giving a show praise ratings and much harsher in critiques of punishment. So yeah, that was just a fun little side thought that I had when looking up information for this series. In part 2, I'm going to be going into commentary about 13 Reasons Why and not just the system that I think did it a little dirty. And that's the cliffhanger I'm going to leave you on. Did I agree with the critics or the audience for 13 Reasons Why? I'll see you in the next episode.